Let's check in with the doc and look at things with a wider lens. Pastor Richards on OMG.
Good morning to you, Dr. Richards.
A blessed day to you, Daniil, to you, Mario,
Morning, Doc.
and all of our listeners. Good day to you. I have a lot on my mind today, quite frankly.
Wow.
I don't even know where to begin, but you all bear with me today. Huh? I mentioned some things yesterday that will perhaps give guidance to what I would say throughout this week and maybe into next week. A big week, I said next week will be a big week. One of the things I said yesterday is that truth, not just in St. Vincent, but truth is not really a major axis, is not a major player. I mentioned, Shady, by the way, if somebody can pull down that background music as I try to get my thoughts together, I want to be clear in my thinking and what I say. Aaron Rodgers, many of you may not know him. I watch him. He's an NFL football star. And he's also doing pieces for State Farm. What was interesting to me after he's unvaccinated. I'm not really getting into much vaccine talk today, frankly, but he's unvaccinated. But this thought from something he said that he was vaccinated, but it turned out that last week he got the coronavirus. And then they discovered he was not vaccinated. And immediately the calls start coming in, cancel him. Let him lose his NFL contract. And State Farm should cancel him. Interestingly, and I was expecting State Farm to cancel him, frankly speaking. But you know what State Farm did? State Farm did the poll. They did the polling and found out that Aaron Rodgers was actually resonating in areas where they wanted to sell their insurance products. And the fact that he was not vaccinated, he was a hero in some of these quote-unquote red states. And they were like, okay, my poll says the people still like him, so regardless to what, we're going to keep him. That's my point. Truth is not really an axis for making decisions. Popularity is what's popular. Mario, you know Dave Chappelle?
Yes, I do. And all the controversy surrounding him with the the alphabet community.
Mario, you're sharp. This is crazy, guys. This is crazy. He made the mistake of thinking a man was someone who was born with male genitals. When I say, I can't even say male genitals. I can't call the words on what is this, radio? But if you're born with stuff like male parts, traditional male parts, he thought, boy, you a man. And he thought that if you're born, how foolish could he be to think that if you are born with female genitalia and all of that makes you a woman. So in his naivety, he thought that, boy, you have male and female and they're distinct. And he pushed that kind of narrative. The backlash was immediate. So I don't know if, Daniel, you followed it. I think it was a Netflix thing that he did his thing on.
Yeah.
But I mean, it is incredible. You cannot say anything that is not in vogue, that offends the mainstream, whether in Hollywood or anywhere. You can't be a non-conformist. Look at what, and I mentioned it yesterday. Guys, this is going to form the basis of what I have to say to this nation. Look at Colin Kaepernick. Again, probably unfamiliar to many, many of you, but he's the guy that decided at the American national anthem, he's going to take the knee.
Take a knee, yeah.
He's going to take a knee to stand up and protest the systemic racism that they won't see and they won't get in it. And NFL that is comprised of so many black players, he's like, we got to take a knee. We can't stand for an anthem that basically glorifies systemic racism. he immediately, and he was a rising star. And by the way, there's a new docu-movie coming out with him.
Yeah, Black and White, I think it was called.
Yeah. Oh, but Mario, you surprised me, Well, I told you, right, that's all. Colin Kaepernick, he is, but I mean, he just got effectively cancelled in the prime of his career. He got cancelled. To cancel someone, and I am borrowing from what David Jeremiah said about what cancellation is. You should watch his piece on Turning Point, Dr. David Jeremiah. Anyway, it is to publicly humiliate anybody that dares, whether it is you say something about straight sex and people think it's offensive, you won't get cancelled. One guy happened to just like the wrong post. He liked a post that was something to this guy, whatever. They were posting. They traditionally would post edgy stuff and racy stuff. And one of the posts that was not necessarily that edgy and racy, you happen to like that post, and somebody noticed that you liked the post, and that just went crazy from there. Because it went from liking the post to liking the person to like the person who posted to liking what the values exposed by the person who posted to having the same values. It just mushroomed. It went crazy. You are persona non grata if you don't, guys. You all have to hear me. If you don't toe the prevailing line, the prevailing logic, if you're not singing from the popular song sheet, you are a persona non grata and a candidate to be cancelled. Humiliated publicly. You cannot have your own thoughts anymore, Daniil. I remember there was a time, guys, just bear with me today. I'm leading to something. I remember a time when the DSM Diagnostic and Statistical Manual is what, as counselors, we use. It's put out by APA, American Psychological Association. And if you go right up to the DSM-3, and they come in cycles, you have the DSM, I think we're up to DSM-6 now, but you go back to DSM-5, you go back to DSM-4, you go back to DSM-3, you get my picture. But there was a time when, get this, homosexuality, DSM diagnoses, abnormalities, etc., psychological disorders. That's why it is called the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual. So if you want to know what constitutes a disorder, and a mental or psychological abnormality, you will look in that. And there was a time when homosexuality was actually made its way in there. But with a lot of power moves and politicking, guess what has happened? And I pointed this out a year or two ago. Guess what has happened? That is no longer in there as something to be addressed. But instead, if you dare have a problem, if you dare speak against it, if you dare have an issue, whatever, there's a diagnosis there for people who can't embrace homosexuality. You all know what that diagnosis is? Homophobia. So that is what is called a switching of the norm, guys, a switching of the norm. The abnormal has become mainstream. And that which was traditional mainstream thought, if you dare go down that road, you are the one who is abnormal. You are the one who must take classes. You are the one who must get the reorientation session. You are the one who have to go through courses in what conditional behavioral conditioning. If you are to get back your job, if you are to get back your standing, etc., etc. If you happen in some places to utter a word sideways against homosexuality, you're homophobic, we're going to put you on leave. And of course, the diagnostic manual will confirm your condition as homophobic. And you have to be reconditioned. If you don't get reconditioned, you are cancelled. Lose your job. Remove you, depending on your standing, from public life and public conversation. You are fined, fired, shamed, silenced, excoriated. Cancel culture is a thing. Cancel culture, I was thinking for a while there that cancel culture was a thing on distant shores, perhaps even a foster child of the Me Too movement. But cancel culture is not something distant and afar. Cancel culture is here. And it is creeping in. What shocked me 2 weeks ago, I think it was, or maybe last week, when I was confronted with cancel culture and the ethos of cancel culture right here in St. Vincent. When I heard Bing very emotionally talk about the calls to cancel Jomo. And from what Bing was saying, this was not just a little push thing. This was a heavy push. That is why he spoke so emotionally. Cancel Jomo because his rhetoric, his narrative is offensive. It is non-conformist to a particular agenda. He must be cancelled. And not only cancel Jomo, cancel Boom. How? By powerful people, and Bing knows who they are, so I don't, who have influence with advertisers saying we will get the advertisers to pull from your station. That's cancel. Cancel culture is punitive and punishes those who don't sing from your song sheet, who don't walk your line, who don't eat at your table. Why, as a Christian, am I so opposed and strongly opposed to cancel culture? Because cancel culture celebrates the lack of essential social solidarity ingredients, which I, as a Christian, I try to push. Things that we need in this society, cancel culture celebrate the absence of it. Cancel culture, my friend, cancel culture celebrates the absence of this idea of you got to love your neighbor. Celebrates the lack of forgiveness. The lack of kindness. Cancel culture embraces that, fires it up. And these are things that our society needs more of, but cancel culture says away with that. And in the process, while it is celebrating the lack of all of these things, cancel culture is glorifying and advancing some significant social ills. Daniel, feel me. You see, spite. This is toxic to our society, and cancel culture glorifies it and pushes that. It injects and infuses vengeance in our society. Cancel culture fires hatred and pours gasoline on it. This whole notion of punishment, guys, hear me, and you will get more of this out of me this week, next week. This whole thing about if this man doesn't run with me, stay on my song sheet, walk according to what I say he should. Punishment over reconciliation. That's a social ill. You have heard me years on this program saying that the punitive mindset is not biblical, so much more that Christ said, I didn't even come here to condemn, John 3:17, which is my favorite Bible verse. I ain't come here in this world to condemn. I came to make people better, John 3:17. And cancel culture is the absolute diametric opposite of that. Punish people, condemn them, don't reconcile. We might not have been used to the term here in St. Vincent, but a lot of things I call out because I see them come in, and eventually you guys see them too. The disdain we have for one another who are not on our side. That's an offshoot of cancel culture. So let me say something. And then when I say this, you're going to see where I'm headed with this. Bona fide Christians are anti-cancel culture. Because cancel culture is anti-biblical. And I just give you all the reasons why. Because it celebrates spite and vengeance and hatred and punishment and disdain and condemnation. And it downplays forgiveness. It downplays kindness and reconciliation and love. Pushes them to the margin, to the periphery of social life. So basically, this is the anti-Bible mandate, cancel culture. So Christians can't embrace it. You wonder why. Let me show you what I mean. I'm going to be so transparent here. You wonder why Christians are not anti-vax. In fact, Christians are pro-vax, obviously because we value life. So you have heard me time and again on this station put a pitch for the value of the vaccine. You wonder why Christians and so many pastors, there was one in the Searchlight newspaper just 2 weeks ago encouraging people and saying, well, he got vaccinated, encouraging the vaccinated. You wonder, why is it? Why is it Christian can be pro-vax but be so strong against vaccine mandates? You wonder why. You would think that, well, they're pro-vax, so they will be okay with the mandate. We are okay with the vaccine, but we are not okay with the mandate. And it ought not to be a mystery. It ought not to be a mystery that Christians are okay with the vaccine, but they're not okay with the mandate. Because, in essence, the effect of the mandate is really an act of legalized cancellation. I'm not saying it is intentional. Don't get me wrong. Don't run with anything political. But in effect, the real outcome is a cancellation. Because to go back to what I said earlier, when people like Dave Chappelle and Kaepernick and others, a whole stream of them, Aaron Rodgers, others, they get fired and shamed and silenced and excoriated. But that is the outcome. And when you look at the outcome of the mandate that will come into effect on the 19th, what's going to happen to people? Ask yourself, what is going to happen to people who are not vaccinated? Of course they should get, you understand what I'm saying? The vaccine, I have said over and over, it says but people are saying, well, I ain't reached there yet, I'm still struggling. And what's going to happen to when they start thinking, I am going to be out of a job, I'm going to be out of bread. Some of them are so close to retirement and they hear and talk, you're going to lose your retirement too. You tell me how that is not punitive. One minute you walk in, good, you have your job, and the next minute, because you don't take the vaccine, you're cancelled. Your ability to provide for your family is cancelled. Your ability to go on vacation, that's cancelled. Your ability to have leisure time, that's cancelled. Your ability to do so many things gets cancelled. Cancelled. And it is not positive as a punitive measure, but the outcome. That's why I said it might not be intentional, but the outcome is punitive, it's a punishment. It's a financial punishment. It's a status punishment. And it is far more, because the essence of man, ever since creation, as God gave to man this thing to walk. And when the Bible actually says that a man who can't provide for his family, get this, it says it, is worse than an infidel. So you wonder why Christians are pro-vax, but they're like, don't go down that road with the mandate. Don't go down that road. Don't. Because you're taking a man out of work, and the Bible says a man without work, a man who doesn't provide for his family, ain't no good, an infidel. I don't like the cancel culture. I don't like, because it is so anti-biblical, I don't like this punitive punishment approach to bring people in line. And because the cancel culture is so powerful, the precursor, of course, the Me Too movement has removed so many people from office. It's powerful. It's really, really powerful. And people know it. And as it grows and it becomes part of the subculture, it's going to be more and more powerful. And the outcome, when people realize, when ministers know they're going to, if they speak out, X, Y, and Z. As had happened in the United States, some ministers have been basically hauled before the carpet, hauled before the councils and stuff like that in certain, because they said things about homosexuality. They have lost their ministry. Lost it. I have friends in the South, many friends who are ministers, and some of them don't take a vocal stand anymore. They don't take a vocal stand. Because, if you speak on certain things that are not mainstream, offensive to the prevailing narrative, nonconformist, if you speak these things, you are going to be cancelled. So the outcome of the cancel culture is silence. I would urge people that is the wrong road. That we must approach with wisdom, and that there are times when you must speak with courage. And maybe you will be cancelled if you speak with courage. I borrow from David Jeremiah to wrap up. He reminded us of the incident, actually it's biblical, where a woman was caught in the very act of adultery, totally off the mainstream. And she was brought to Jesus to be stoned. She was brought to Jesus, and they're like, well, she messed up. Time to get rid of her, cancel her. And what Jesus said was, hey, hold up. He who is without sin, cast the first stone. Now I know stone throwing and stone casting has become a thing, and it's a frowned thing here in St. Vincent. The representative of Central Kingston, he could never get away from casting that stone. In fact, they give him a nickname, Stone something, Stone Thrower, something like that.
Stone Church.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. Well, yeah. But what I'm saying, that the point I want to make is not to bring a derogatory nickname to say that he got a nickname. It wasn't wrong. Look at the big hurry over the stone cast down by the Parliament building. An assassination attempt. Jesus is not for this stone throwing thing, And you see, and I said it 2 months ago, you don't throw a stone to the head of any leader of government, anybody, anything. You don't. I disapprove the throwing of the stone. I totally disapprove the throwing of the stone. But I said then, I also disapprove any stone thrown at the head of a Vincentian breadwinner. Think about these things. We should not be canceling people. Think about these things. There will be other days for me to comment if I'm not cancelled. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you, Pastor. Thank you for your commentary this morning. There was one question I wanted to ask, but I don't want to, because the time, and I know that if I...
That is so unfair, because...
I know.
Next time, just interrupt me.
I couldn't. There was no way. You are really, really on a roll. You are really, really on a roll, and I'm happy that you got to see all that you wanted to.
Okay. The cancel culture, whether it is in mandates or in legalized whatever, or however it comes, the cancel culture is not the biblical way. And that explains, because some people were wanting an explanation as to why Christians are pro-vax but anti-mandate, and there are elements of cancel culture in legalize doing the mandate this way, and you can't cancel a breadwinner. So Christians are substantially opposed. Well, thinking Christians are really opposed to this move, and you will hear more about it.
So let me just quickly ask. What about those persons who might say, well, persons think that vaccination is the ultimate way of protecting yourself against COVID, right? Well, not the ultimate way, but one of the better ways in terms of protecting yourself as it relates to COVID.
No, the vaccine has not an impeccable, but the vaccine has a really good record, Daniel. Okay. The record of the vaccine in terms of you watch. I mean, you could almost bet on the fact that if a man or a woman is vaccinated, they're not going to have serious complications. I mean, you could put that in the bank. There are one or two, a small percentage of incidences and stuff like that. But by and large, the record, and you have sufficient months now to show this, that the record is if you have the vaccine, you're pretty much going to avoid serious calamity. We get that. But the mandate that says do this or else. I mean, like I said, there's a storm, and it will hit breadwinners in the head hard. And I don't think it is Christian to just be afraid of the cancel culture and stay in silence. No. Because you're afraid of being labeled or, shamed or excoriated or whatever. No, you got to say this is wrong. Because the Bible really does not promote this cancel culture. And I don't see why Christian should promote it. By the way, I call it cancel culture. Notice I said it is intentional legalized cancellation. It is unintentional. Let me make that clear. I won't think that that is the intended effect. But it is whether intended or not, it is the effect. These are serious things for us to think about. But then there will be more time for us to elucidate and elaborate on these things. Have a good day.
Thank you, Doc. Have a good one.
Okay, bye.
All right. That's where we wrap things up here. That's loud.
Let's check in with the doc and look at things with a wider lens. Pastor Richards on OMG.